Romance at a glance. Romance at a glance.
What you say now?
Romance at a glance.
Go ahead, girl. Welcome to Romance at a Glance. This is your host, Shawnee. With me is my co-host, Bridget. How you doing today, Bridge Nasty?
I am doing wonderfully. How are you, Shawnee?
I am fantabulous. I'm really excited about this book. But before I start, let me tell you right now, I have to give a shout out to Daniela, our newest patron.
Hey, girl.
We love your TED Talks on Instagram, Daniela. Keep it coming.
Seriously, you guys, treat yourself and go back on some of the old Black Dagger Brotherhood posts, and you can see all of her amazing, funny thoughts about it. We appreciate you. We thank you. Everyone else, we like long comments. We like friends. Come be a patron. Come join us. It's real fun.
The water is warm.
So warm.
Because I peed in it. So Bridget, how timely that we're reading about suffragettes and women's rights.
It is the most timely. How excited am I about Kamala Harris? I'm very excited. They just raised a boatload of money in the first few days since it was announced, and I could not be more excited. I know that you, as a fellow Black lady, are very stoked. And I'm just excited. I think, honestly, I don't think that the announcement of her as the VP could have come next to a book that made more sense. I don't think it's possible.
I know. I love when this happens. It's like serendipity.
Yes. Kismet. It's all meant to be.
It's all meant to be. And I really feel like it's funny because when we're reading this book, you realize women were fighting for their rights. This was like in 1880 something, I believe, when this book is taking place. And women are fighting for rights, and we still, to this day, have not gotten all the rights that we should have, or equal pay, or a lot of things. We're still fighting for it. We're still fighting for the right to control our own bodies and that sort of thing. And it's really putting it into perspective, like, yo, we got to move faster than this. We've come a long way, and I appreciate those women because they started the fight. And we really need to, get things popping and get things moving. So I'm hoping, Bridget, that is in our near future.
Well, Evie Dunmore, the author of Bringing Down the Duke, we are very excited to hop into some suffragettes, and we are also going to be interviewing Evie, so look out for that Authors at a Glance interview.
All right, Bridget, are you ready to get this popping?
I am ready. Let's get it popping. Okay, everyone. So as we mentioned, we were reading Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore. This is her debut novel. Did you know that?
So I just found that out very recently, and I'm like, holy cow. Way to hit this shit out of the park, Evie.
Right?
Like, what?
I know. Shawnee, I'm going to give you a little inside scoop. I read book 2. I got an ARC of it. I did not share it with you because it's a written word, not an audiobook. It's called A Rogue of One's Own. Spoiler, it's also great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm super stoked about it. This is book number 1 of A League of Extraordinary Women. And as we talked about in the intro, this is about suffragettes in England, and they are working to have the Marriage as Property Act, Against Property Act, Marriage as Property. It's the one where when you get married, you become property and all of your property becomes your husband's. And so they are working to strike that down. And that's what the book's about. And I will give you a more detailed synopsis in a moment. But first, let's talk about the cover art. What did you think, Shawnee?
Okay, so I'm going to have to say this. I don't know if this is unpopular opinion. I don't really like these kind of animated, cartoony looking covers.
I did not think this book was going to be like this. I'm thrilled with the book that we read. I do not feel like the cover matched the because this book was it had the happily ever after. It had some lighter moments, but it was a serious book, I thought.
When I see a cover like this, it reads like a rom-com. Mm-hmm. It reads like it's going to be just light, fluffy, fun, whatever. And I don't feel like this book gives me the kind of serious, mature, lovely vibes that I got from the actual story at all. If I were seeing this book cover on a shelf, I would not pick it up.
Never.
At all. So I know that everything is moving towards this way, these more generic covers. Maybe it makes it more accessible to people. I don't know.
I think honestly, I think it's gonna.
I don't like it.
I don't know this to be a fact, but my hunch is that, like everything, it will be cyclical. So we'll go back to more steamy covers, and then it'll go to, more abstract, and then it'll go to more anime. Like, I feel like once one book sells really well that has an anime illustrated cover, every book has an illustrated cover. And then a book will sell gangbusters with, like a more simplistic cover and like a pair of handcuffs, and then all of them will be like that. All of them. Oh, we're back to abs. We're back to abs and pectorals. So
is abs ever out, Bridget? Is abs ever out?
Never out. I will always pick up a book with abs just to read, even just to read the synopsis, just to see what are those abs doing in this book?
Exactly. That book has a way better chance of getting picked up and evaluated before this one. Yeah. I wouldn't even have remembered this book.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, I feel like it does it a disservice because this book was so awesome. Spoiler, I loved this book. And I'm like, wow, I would have missed out because I would have judged it by this stupid ass cover.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. Especially, like we said, because this book is about suffragettes, it is a more serious and mature book. So it's about Annabelle. So Annabelle is basically a woman before her time. So she's brilliant but destitute, and she's sort of at the mercy of a cousin who's inherited. And she's kind of like basically his slave labor. She's like helping take care of all these fucking kids and nannying everybody and teaching everybody. And she gets herself a place at Oxford by pretending to be a boy while continuing the correspondence of her father, which I loved. So she kind of has to convince him to let her leave because she can't even go on her own, even though she got the scholarship. And she got the scholarship from this suffragette movement, which is where she meets her three friends who are going to become the heroines of their own books later. And basically what they're doing is they're canvassing and stopping men in the street to ask them about this cause and hey, do you want to support us? And she goes up to Sebastian, who is the Duke of Montgomery. And he's a really big deal and very cold and calculating. And he's got all those Duke vibes. And, she's just like, whatever, I'll go talk to him. I don't give a fuck. And it all, through a series of things, a lot of things we'll talk about happen. But basically, she ends up at his house. Will he help them? Will he fall in love with her? We don't know. We do know. We're going to tell you.
Yeah, we do. We know.
But it was definitely the premise. So some books and historicals seem to be more formulaic in the sense that it's a duke and a pauper who he falls in love with, or a duke, or a duke who falls in love with, who's a rake, who falls in love with the little shy wallflower who brings out the best in him, or a duke. But all of them, but not that those books are bad, because I'm all for a trope if it's done well, but that they're more lighthearted, I guess is the word. And I thought this book had really great historical shit in it.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that they're all lighthearted per se, but there are, just there's a lot of people whose catnip, is, I don't know, whatever trope. But I love, okay, so there's a lot of people who have a power exchange. They love the more modern power exchange books, and that's all they read and stuff. And I think the Duke books are kind of the historical equivalent to that, because it's always this powerful duke, and somehow it's the governess, or it's the nanny, or it's the maid who saved his life when he was on the road and she didn't know he was a duke. You know what I mean? And he's giving up everything and all his worldly possessions, or usually his reputation,
always giving up that reputation,
in order to so this is a very familiar layout of a story, but it is just a beautifully done, retelling of that. And I think that the author did a really great job of not over-explaining a bunch of things. there isn't too much exposition about stuff. I get a really good idea of who Annabelle is and where she's coming from with her family without way too much explanation of that. I feel like that's where they lose me in a lot of books, that they're trying to give me her entire backstory and make her a real person to me, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck. If she's poor, she misses her family, she's trying to go to school. Okay, good, got it. Sebastian, he's brooding. He's
a duke, so he's obviously brooding.
He's brooding. He's trying to get his money right. He's
yes. He's being bossed around by a queen. That sassy queen.
He's trying to take his power back. It's just that's all I really want to know. Give me enough to connect with the character, to feel like they're not just a total one-dimensional individual. But you don't have to go into all this description of their past.
Oh my God. And get me to the action. Get me to the meat cute. Yeah. Because we've read a couple books where we were like, when's the story going to start? So I agree with you. I thought the bits of their past were woven into the story and came up in conversation a lot, or like explaining, things like that. So it was helping them get to know each other versus like everything just being told to us in one way in the first like 10 chapters. And you're like, okay, let's move right along. But I thought this book moved along at a nice pace. I really did not like, doesn't start at the beginning of the book. I thought that her little weasel of a cousin, I wanted to punch that man in the nose. And he was like, well, this is how I imagine his voice. Well, I imagine he was like sniffing a lot. Well, I'm not sure. And she's like, well, I could get paid like a whole pound a month. And he's like, well, I guess if you're going to pay me to let you leave, what a butt. Stop having children if you can't take care of those children, you bitch. Sorry.
Also, I
like him.
But how sucky is it? I mean, in my life as an independent woman, there's been moments where I was at the mercy of like a dude at some point, whether it be my dad, whether it be my partner or whatever. And moments where I didn't feel like I had an out. And I know how suffocating those moments felt. And I had choices.
Yeah.
So to be her back in the day where this weasel of a dude was in charge of her whole livelihood and her whole reputation and well-being, and he's grossly underqualified and she can't vote, but he can. It's
that would make me into a radical too. I'd be like, all right, we got to fix this.
I would march till I die. I'm just like, I can't even imagine that, I couldn't stand it. I do like the way she kind of manipulates him or whatever. Yeah. She's like, okay, I know what he he wants. But there's one aspect of her, I think, that is so endearing. And I think it's what made me kind of fall in love with her character in the beginning, which was that she didn't want to be a suffragette. No. Like, she just wanted to get out of the house with the weasel cousin. She wanted to study and curl up on her bed alone with a book. Yep. That was it. I feel like that's many women's, like,
she didn't want to get married. No desire to get married. She didn't want to be nobody's mistress. She didn't want to be with the suffragettes. She was trying to do the bare minimum and then just, accidentally became one of their fiercest champions. I thought her friendship with Hattie, who is an incredibly rich daughter of a businessman who like owns half of London, and but she's not in the tone. And I thought the friendship between the three other girls and her, as it developed, I thought it developed really well, because it's not like insta friends. It was like, no, Hattie kind of like wore on her until she became best friends with her. She was like, no, but we should be best friends. No, but I'm Hattie and I am so fun and I think we should just keep on talking. And like, I thought that was one of the nicest.
I did too. I'm with you on that, because it could have been one. I didn't feel like Hattie, Lucy, or Catriona. I didn't feel like any of them were one-dimensional. I feel like she didn't go super into who they are because obviously they're going to have some more stories later. So they're just introduced and you get a general feel for who they are.
Right.
And enough just to kind of love them.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I love that they were always looking out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like there wasn't a moment of like cattiness or where that became something in the story.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they didn't make Sebastian's younger brother Peregrine even one-dimensional. I thought like when they decide that they want to get into his house party and so they're going to give him the key to get the alcohol, that there's this moment where she says like, oh, he's kind of a bro, like the equivalent of a bro from back in the day. Yeah. But she's like, but he's clever, but he's not a total idiot. Right. So we have, and I like that they acknowledge that because they could have just made him the dumb dude, like, oh, whatever. But they didn't. And even when he runs away, he's such a little pussy though. Like, swear to God.
It's like classic cab. A classic cab. It's a pussy ass bitch right there.
I was like, what is I like it. He tries to put him into the Navy or whatever, and he's like, he just runs away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did really enjoy their friendship, the girls, and I enjoyed that she helps her when they're protesting. She helps her not get like taken by the corrupt police and stuff like that. And I love that whole scene of her in jail and whatnot. And
he sweeps, even though he sweeps in to save her, and then he gets mad at her. That's my favorite thing in books is like when they get mad, like. One character, in this case, the Duke, sweeps in to save her. So she gets arrested during one of the suffragette rallies and he, of course, told her not to go. And she was like, well, I'm going. So there. And Hattie is her dad is so powerful that she never gets hassled by anyone. And this corrupt police officer doesn't know who she is. And he's like leering at her and saying terrible things. And so Annabelle gets in his face and like, does she punch him in the face? Shoves him over or something? She
decks him in the face.
Yeah, so that Hattie can run and get away. So they arrest her, take her to jail. And he finds out and comes to bail her out. And even though it's like very expensive. And she convinces him. I don't think she does. Does she convince him to bail out the other lady too?
Yeah, so I thought that was cute because he comes to bail her out, and he actually asked her friends to tell him if something happened.
Right, and they went to him.
Yes, so they went to him. But yeah, there was one other suffragette who was in there. She was really scared, and she didn't have anyone to get her. So before she left, she was like, "Hey, my homegirl's in there. Do you think you could?" Get her out too.
Yeah, and then he gets all mad at her because he's like, now everyone's going to know that I went to this jail and bailed out a suffragette and she stayed at my house. And it's like, you didn't have to bring her home, brah. And also you could have like sent an anonymous person to do this for you. You didn't have to go yourself. Let's not kid ourselves about this. Okay?
He wanted her to be in debt because he wanted her to be the mistress.
Yes, he did. He wanted her to be a mistress. So that was one of the coolest things I thought about this book. So I think, obviously I don't read that much historical, as you guys know. But I loved that she was willing to have sex with him because she had already, so we find out in her backstory that she fell in love with someone, had sex with him as a younger, someone in the town, had sex with him, ended up getting pregnant, but lost the baby. And so she had gotten sent away. So like no one really knew about it because she had gotten sent to like an aunt's house, but lost the baby early. So no one ever knew. So she's had sex before. She loves the passion, totally fine with having sex with him, but does not want to be his mistress or his wife. Yeah. So I'm skipping forward quite a bit, but they're about to get it on in the library. Okay. She knocked on the library. She walked in. He pushed her up against the door. They're about to get it on. And then he's like, she says something and he like takes it to mean, oh, she's like trying to ask him about like a condom or something. I don't remember what she says to him, but then he's like, oh, of course you want to draw up a contract or talk about terms. And she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, for being my mistress. And she's like, no, why would you ruin this? We could have just fucked. And now we can't. And I felt that so acutely because obviously I don't have this whole, like, I might become someone's property if I get married problem. But I have had situations where I was like about to just like get on that D and have myself a grand old time. And then they like said something stupid. And I'm like, why would you ruin this? Now we can't have sex.
Why?
And I'm so upset with you. So I felt that so acutely. But I just thought that was like a really cool part of her character that she is just like, no, I don't care if I'll be comfortable for the rest of my life. And I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. I also like that she told him, like, hey, when they do get down and dirty, she tells him, like, hey, I don't want to have a baby. Like, make it so that I don't have a baby. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I like that. And he was like, cool. And then he did the thing, you know? And so that to me was a nice moment.
He came on her back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, like, they got a little freaky for historical times. He was like, I want to do it from behind. She was like, okay. And I was like, get it.
Flipping over right now. Gonna like a little doggy style, baby. Yeah. No, like, but I really like that. I really like that about it. And I liked, oh man, when they had like their first kiss.
Side note, everyone, that doesn't always work. I totes would have gotten pregnant. I am a fertile mofo. If someone was banging me with no condom, even if they came on my back, I probably would have gotten pregnant anyways.
Bridget and I have a laugh about this because we were actually talking about this before the podcast, not in relation to this book, but like I personally, Shawnee, have not been on birth control in probably over 10 years. So the only method of birth control I use is the pull-out method.
It's not even a method. I hate when people, I'm like, it's...
Right. Well, okay, so I misspoke. So I use two forms of birth control. One is the pull-out method. Two is I do my basal body temperature. And I have been doing that, and then I don't have, so I can track my ovulation, so then I don't have sex when I'm ovulating. However, sometimes I do have sex when I'm ovulating.
You guys, when Shawnee is the least careful person, when she was telling me this, I was so fucking stressed out about it. And she's like, yeah, well, you know, whatever. Sometimes we just have sex. Sometimes they just come inside me, and because I'm okay with it that day. And I'm like, what is it? Like, you guys don't even understand the paranoia that I have about getting pregnant. I know I've already had 2 children and got pregnant twice, but like, even before that, the
thing about it is,
crazy.
You know me. I love cum. So when I'm not ovulating, then we down the clown. You know what I'm saying? Why am I tracking my ovulation if we ain't gonna use these good non-fertile days? You know what I'm saying? But also, like, to be fully transparent, dear listeners, I have endometriosis, which can make it harder to get pregnant. And when I was younger, I had surgery for fibroids. So during that time, I couldn't hold a pregnancy because I had a fibroid that was the size of a baby. So, like, there's also that. Yeah. But in these last 10 years or so, in these last 8 years, I have had the full capacity to have a baby. Besides the endometriosis, I just haven't. So I don't know why. I could just be infertile. Who knows? I don't know. But I'm living my best life out here in these streets, Bridget. Let me tell you right now.
I wish that the only time in my whole life that I have had sex without worrying about getting pregnant was when I was actively trying to get pregnant and or having sex while pregnant. It's the only time. It's the only time in my whole life. Even now, my husband has a vasectomy. It's pretty.
You're still scared,
pretty new. I mean, he got it like, I don't know, 8 months ago or something. And every month I'm like, thank you, sweet baby Jesus, that the vasectomy is holding. Because I'm just one of those people, man. I got knocked. The only 2 times in my life that I have had sex with no condoms and no other form of birth control, I got pregnant. Both months. 2 months, 2 babies. I'm batting 100 over here. Okay. Anyways, let's get back to this book.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
What did you think?
Because we're jumping around here because we're so excited.
So much. We're so excited to see each other. What did you think about the Oxford setting? Did you think that her teacher was going to end up being a creep? Because at the beginning, I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to be a creep. He ended up being a perfectly nice dude. But at the beginning, I was like, oh, I wonder if this is going to be like the guy that the Duke saves her from or something like that. But I'm glad they didn't go down that route. I'm glad he ended up just being like a stand-up dude.
Well, I did not think he was going to be a creep. I thought he was going to be a super duper nerd who might like her and that she wasn't going to like him, which is kind of what happened. But I definitely knew that there was going to be somebody who he had to like warn off, which ended up being that Valentine guy from the party, which led to their nice balcony kiss. So I was for that all the way.
Wait, are you talking about are you talking about the alcove when they're in the alcove?
Yeah, in the alcove. Yeah. Yes, or whatever.
It was a steamy kiss.
That was a steamy kiss.
I feel like here's the thing about these historical people, Shawnee, that I'm realizing now that we have read a few. These motherfuckers are talking about how they need to be careful about their reputations and propriety. They get one touch of the lips on their skin and they go fucking nuts. Like they just forget where they are. I can see why people like it because people get dumb as fuck. Both of them are talking about how we can't do this. It'll ruin our reputations, blah, 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 blah. The second his lips hit hers, he's thrusting his heart on. She's has like a leg straddled around him. He's grabbing her boobs. And I'm like, you are at a party with 1,000 people right now. But that is what I've learned about historicals is like, these people have never been touched. Well, the women at least. Well, I guess not in this book's case, I suppose. But like these people, the Duke and he's sucking a titty in the garden. I mean, these people get crunk. They get crazy.
These people, man.
I know why you like this now. Because everybody's just throwing caution in the wind. Just like, yo, let's go. Well, fuck my reputation. Like, I want to get the D.
Well, also, I mean, historicals in a way mirror like my reality, which was like super repressed, super like, people couldn't, there was such a heavy emphasis on propriety and looking a certain way and dressing a certain way and that sort of thing. So that's how I grew up. Now it's obviously not historical or whatever, but it's still the same principles. And so like when you can catch a glimpse of something, everything just becomes magnified way more. Do you know what I mean? Like probably teenagers who could have sex at a younger age or could do that probably didn't go as crazy. Like you had education from a younger age, right? And you were allowed much more and you turned out all right. You had some really nice situations. So that was nice.
Well, I also didn't have, because I didn't feel like I needed to.
And you probably didn't go ham about it.
I didn't.
For me, all I did was come up with kinky scenarios in my mind for many years. And now I have all these little kinks. They're fun, but like, but they directly stem from not being able to
explore,
to fully explore those thoughts and feelings in my formative years where I'm developing my sexual identity.
Right.
So, and so the same thing with historicals. I feel like all these people are repressed. They rarely can see anything. They're trying to catch glimpses. Yeah. So if you can get, a fool alone on a balcony, you're about to get it. And then I do love. Then
you got to marry those fools, man. These people need to be more careful,
well,
Shawnee.
If you get caught, you got to get married. But the Duke would never have had to marry her, even if they got caught.
She would have just been ruined,
completely ruined, and he would not. There's no one, and that's actually that's one of the lines, one of my quotes that I like from later on. But on the balcony, this is the thing I really love that really set it up. One, I do love a man who is a little bit possessive. If I'm reading possessive books, I'll allow a man to be super possessive, but I have to be specifically reading a book for that. But I love that he comes out there and he's like, you don't need to be seeing that Valentine's guy anymore. He's not going to be good for you. And I was like, he jealous. He jealous.
Jealous.
And then they're like moving towards each other. And she's like, she had not seen the predator in him until now. Now she could taste his intent. And they're moving closer. And then when he gets really close to her and she knows what time it is, he knows what time it is, she tries to like put her hands to stop him a little. Not to like hard stop, but just be like, slow it down a little. And he just looks at her and he says, enough.
Ooh.
And I was like, oof.
Oh, I was for it. I was for it. I was very for it. Okay, so what did you think about the fact that, so this was at the ball, which happens later, but what did you think about the fact, so they basically get themselves invited to the house. They don't think he's going to be there. The brother invites them and like all his friends to party, and he's definitely not supposed to be doing that. So, and it's such a like funny time to like have a friend who's a duke or a brother of a duke, because when you invite someone to a party, you're not like, oh, come over for 2 hours. It's like, oh, come stay for 2 weeks at my duke estate, and here's a suite of rooms for you and your chaperones, and we can all dine on 5-course dinners together and go hunting, and like it's so funny. So anyway, so they go, her and her Annabelle and her friends go, and the Duke gets so mad at her, and she gets so embarrassed because he thinks that she's like just went there specifically, and you know, so he's being a big butthead. And she gets so embarrassed that she packs her shit and walks. She's gonna walk back to the next town. That was when I was like, okay, this is my kind of girl. She's like, you know what? I'm not gonna stay till the morning. I'm not gonna wait for the snow to stop. I can walk there. Fuck it. It's like 5 miles. I can walk there. That is my attitude. I can walk. I can do that. Fuck it. Okay.
That is so my attitude too, Bridget. I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to be. Well, fuck you and fuck this. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah. Fuck your estates. Fuck your money. The fuck out of here. Yeah. She like trudges through the snow, and then I like when his servant or whatever, butler or whatever his title was, rides up to her and he's like, miss, you have to come back with me. And she's like, absolutely not. I will not be doing that. And he's like, well, I can't leave without you. And she's like, you will leave without me. Get the fuck away from me. And he's like, just like rides away because he's scared of her. Oh, so good.
He's like, don't know what to do above my pay grade. What?
Yeah.
But then, like, you know, I like that he comes after her, obviously, because that's why I'm here in this story.
Yeah, of course.
I want him to come. He comes, and I like that you kind of get a peek into both of their head spaces, like what they're thinking at this time. And I like that he like strategically apologizes. He gets to the end. They've been talking back and forth. He realizes she ain't gonna get on this horse. She ain't gonna come back to my house.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm gonna have to apologize. Like that's just what's gonna have to happen right now. Yeah. You know? And it works because he apologizes, and then she's like, well, damn, that's a duke. He probably never apologizes to anyone. All right, I'll accept.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, it is a little chilly, like covered in snow. I suppose I am a little bit cold.
A little bit cold. And then I like that she gets to ride on the horse with him. I think it's very convenient that she does not know how to ride side saddle, and
of course.
And that they get to, have that touch and stuff. They do. Evie does a really great job of building just these micro moments of tension and like, and little bits of conversation and little observations that the characters make about each other that seem quite, they seem like they don't matter, but they add something. I noticed them throughout the book. Just something like, it'll be one little line that they say about each other that I feel like just adds a sort of nuance in the story. But yeah, and then their banter when she gets back and she gets sick at his house. I love that she's trying to debate him, and she's like, I definitely have a fever. Yeah. And she's still sitting at the table trying to debate him, and then we get a good feint. Yeah. Which this story has all of the cliches. It has every cliche there is, and it's still so like, and it's beautiful.
I liked the flirting through like the book titles that he was sending her, and how he gave her the cloak through the servants, and I thought that was all very like sweet and fun. I liked her stay because I feel like sometimes I could see where he would just like all of a sudden be just like giving her a cloak. And you're like, okay, well, that's cool, but that doesn't seem like something that would be allowed. So I loved that he like gave it. He was like, she's like, I assume this was from you. At some point, she like asked him, and he's like, well, I couldn't give it to you directly. but I wanted you to have you need to have a warm cloak. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really sweet.
I do love a man with acts of service.
Yeah, I love an act of service, especially in a book. I want to talk quickly about Hattie because this comes up while she's convalescing. And I think Hattie had some just like really hilarious lines. So this one, they're sitting in her room sort of talking about the different, or they're sitting together talking about the Helen of Troy comes up. And Hattie says, personally, I always found 1,000 ships a little excessive, and Menelaus and Paris fought over Helen like dogs over a bone. No one asked her what she wanted. Even her obsession with Paris was compelled by a poisoned arrow. What's romantic about that? I just thought she had like just like hysterical little moments. Like I definitely would, as you said, like we didn't get so much that we would not want to read their story. I thought I got just enough of each of them that I'm like, oh, I wonder who Hattie would end up with. Ooh, I wonder who are they going to fall in love with? Is it going to be like the strong, who's going to go with the rake? Who's going to go, like who's going to get with each one,
Yeah. It's, I'm actually really super excited to read more of Evie's books. And, I've been trying to read for leisure in the process of doing this podcast because I think sometimes when I'm reading just for the podcast, it's not as fun.
Yeah.
So I've been picking up books just to, to read. So I think I'll actually read her second one soon, maybe on the plane. Because I'm coming home.
Yay.
I like the Duke had basically an opposite opinion politically. And so that every time they were talking, they were debating. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of what really spoke to me of the characters is that a lot of times the conversation between characters is really just they're not really saying much. Mm-hmm. When books are going along, they're not having any sort of intellectual conversation. And in real life, in my partners, I require intellectual conversation. I need the ability to debate subject matters with my partners intelligently and not like one of those partners who's always playing devil's advocate. I don't agree with just playing devil's advocate for devil's advocate's sake. And so I liked that they actually were having conversation about a real issue and that they were making real arguments and they were citing real sources and, and that sort of thing. And just in that process of really sitting down and thinking about how little agency women had then. And now look at us. We got the WAP. We got a little Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. WAP. I mean, look how far we've come.
Yeah. And even the other option that she was offered, so her professor proposes, and his proposal I thought was very no nonsense. He was just like, look, mm-hmm. I don't ever want to have children, but, with me, you can have a life as an academic. You can stay at Oxford. You can teach. You can learn. We can go on digs. We can do all of these things together. And there would be a good life. And I thought she thinks about it, like she considers it. And thinks like, could I do that? Could I live a life maybe forever without passion or love? Maybe, certainly she liked her professor. And she even says like, I think I could love him or I could, certainly care for him fondly. She's like, but is that enough? And is it worth giving up, my agency and myself? Obviously she decides to go with the Duke, but I also like that she turned down the professor before she said yes to the Duke. Like she had made that decision for herself before the Duke proposed.
Wait, did she?
I'm pretty sure she did.
Okay, I don't remember exactly if she did because I thought it was the other way, but
am I wrong? I could be wrong. Dear listeners, did you read this book? Tell us, are we wrong?
But I could also be wrong because this is like the most amount of time we have gone, I think, after like, at least after reading a book to recording.
No, I read this. I read this book like 6 weeks ago.
No, you're good at this, Bridget. You read books like whatever, and you can somehow retain a majority of the information. If 3 days goes by and I have not,
I took notes.
You did take really good notes. But like, if 3 days goes by I don't remember shit about a book. Like that book is gone. It's gone.
Hilarious.
So I had to I actually skimmed through the book for the last 2 days so that I could make sure I had a working knowledge of like what was happening. So one way or the other.
Yeah. So if the reason that we're like reaching for names and like, did that happen in that order? It's because of our recording schedule, because Shani got trapped in Florida for longer. And so it kind of threw off the recording for
They canceled my flights, and I'm just trying to get home to Bridget.
Just trying to get home to me. Come back to me. Come back.
But either way, I did think that because she turned him down. She turned the Duke down, and she was still contemplating. I'm pretty sure that the Duke proposed to her. He broke into the little cottage that she was staying at, blew up her whole spot because the lady who was her chaperone,
yeah, she got kicked out.
Yeah, she's like, you have to leave. I don't know what kind of shenanigan you're up to, but you can't stay here. Yeah. And she told the Duke no after that.
I meant his final proposal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But you're totally right. I forgot about the first proposal.
And then I like that she told him no, and it actually made sense because sometimes I feel like in the books they try to do one last hurrah.
Always try to do one last hurrah, which doesn't make sense always.
Which didn't make sense, and I'm always like, oh God, here we go. But I actually thought she had a logical argument. She was just kind of like, look, one, you may regret this. Two, you just fell off a horse and hit your head. Like, I don't believe anything you're saying right now is valid. And I don't necessarily want to be a duchess. I don't necessarily know how to do what you need to be done or whatever.
Yeah, like I still just want to study at Oxford. Like I told you, I just want to read books and be by myself.
And like I felt like that was a very valid argument. And I like that she had that last kind of push at the end there. Like, no, these are my dreams and the things that I want to do. Yeah. And it may make more sense for me to marry the other professor guy because he'll allow me to have my independence and I can get away from this weasel cousin of mine because the laws are not supporting me and my independence right now.
Yeah. It's like, and also like put your money where your mouth is. Like you say you love me, but you're still voting against this thing that will give me freedom and happiness.
Exactly.
Going back to, so they were walking through a maze. This is like midway through the book. And they're like having this lovely moment in the maze, but it's like super bittersweet because they like know they can't be together because he knows she won't be the mistress. She knows that he won't propose to be, like marriage. And then they kind of get caught by someone. And then he tells her later in the book that he would have proposed in the maze right then if they were of equal station. And I was like,
Darcy much.
Fuck you, bro. Yeah, right? I was like, she fucking knows that. Like, you don't need to spell that shit out that you, like, she's not your station. She's fucking aware, butthead.
He said that shit so many times. I was just like, yo, my dude, we get it. We get it. Yeah. But like, I mean, it is very realistic. Yeah. Like, I don't know exactly what she thought was going to happen with whatever they were doing. I thought she was just down to clown, honestly.
I think she was just down to clown. She just wanted to fuck. She didn't want to be a mistress. She didn't want to be a wife. She just wanted some booty. Yeah. He was trying to make things all complicated. She's like, look, I just want the D.
Yeah. And then the thing about it, too, is like when he's like, well, she's like, well, what about when you get married? And he's like, well, that's just, she was just going to have to deal with it. And it's a little bit of a cringy type of moment when he says that, because it's like, what if the positions were reversed, right? She was the wife, he had a mistress and she was the wife, then he would have been telling her, you're just going to have to deal with it. Like, I don't know. I just had this moment where I was like, oof. Cringe, my dude, cringe. Even though it's reality, I mean, it was the reality of the moment and stuff. So I accept it, and I like that I'm allowed to accept it in historicals. I'm like, he's a douche, but he's a duke, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah, but they're dukes. It's like, what are you gonna do? Seems to be the real theme of historicals. He's a duke. What are you gonna do?
Can't say no.
What did you think about him? Like, blowing up his whole life and like changing parties, defying the queen, deciding to marry her. And then, so the whole book, he's talking about how much his ducal responsibilities like take up his time, and he has to stay there and he has to focus and blah 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 blah. And then they end up like just sailing off on a yacht, and like she's like doing her homework and he's just trying to like lick that pussy. He's not doing fuck all. That man is just, he's just getting tan and banging his wife. He's not doing anything.
I'm sorry. Are you proposing a question here, Bridget?
I'm saying like, what did you think about it? Because I felt like there was a lot of, like, it wasn't like he just changed party, which he was kind of leaning towards anyways. It's not like he just married her and decided that. It's like, it was like all of it, like changing parties, marrying her, blowing up his life, and then just leaving all of his responsibilities and not caring.
I kind of feel like
who's managing the estates? We know Peregrine isn't, because that boy can't do shit. So who's doing it?
Okay, so one, every estate has estate managers. All right. Every good duke, oversees what the estate managers are doing so that they're not cooking the books or siphoning money or that sort of thing. So a duke should be able to get up and leave when he wants to be able to leave. He should have people in place for that shit.
But I feel like he didn't. I feel like he should delegate, but I don't feel like he was. So maybe the answer is just he decided to delegate.
Yes, I think he decided to delegate because I think that his father put everything in such shambles that he was having to do a lot of maneuvering of things in order to bring back all the wealth and stuff like that back to his family name and the reputation and all that sort of thing. I was all for him blowing up all this thing because that's the natural outcome of what's going to happen. You already insulted her throughout the book. So for you to come back from you telling her that she ain't shit and you can't marry her because she ain't shit, like the only thing that's going to work for me is you blowing up your life and being like, yo, you're so amazing that I'm going to give up everything I've worked for to this point to treat you like the queen that you are. And
grand gesture time.
I was
grand gesture.
Yeah, it's great. That's the time for the grand gesture. I like that he did it. He put his money where his mouth is in terms of being like, look, I'm for the suffragettes. I think what we're doing here is booty, ain't about it. I like that he didn't necessarily do the show for her. You know what I mean? Like he did it. And then he was like, okay, I resign. And I did believe it, like, because he almost dies on his horse, And I do think that that kind of near-death experiences do that. I feel like that happened to me when I got sick, where I was like, oh, shit. You know what? I just want to spend time with my friends. I'm not going to say I've lost my ambition. I'm still an ambitious person, but I definitely carve out way more time to check on my friends in these last 2 years than I ever have before. I would go like a year without talking to my friend and not feel it one bit, And so I think that he just realized, oh, I could have died on this horse and all this stress I've been doing for this property means nothing. Like, and it goes to my knucklehead brother who's freaking reprobate. So like... So like I don't know. I was there for it. Sail me in a yacht, give me some ducal dick. You know what I'm saying?
On the ducal dick note, we will take a quick break and be right back.
Hello, best friends. Thank you for being loyal listeners of Romance at a Glance. We're so happy to have you. If you'd like to support us further, head over to Patreon, where you can become one of our patrons. We've got a lot of great perks, such as merch and a super secret discussion group where Bridget and I talk to you directly about all things romance and all things nasty. So come on over. And now, back to our show. All right, Bridget, I need to know, what is your heroine rating?
Okay, so I really liked her. I liked the gumption, the fire, the desire to push back, not settling. She did lose like almost a full star for me because she didn't lean on her friends and was like surprised that they wanted to help her at the end. And I was like, girl, you dumb as rocks. This is why they're your friends. You dumb. This dumb mistake people make all the time, and I don't like it. I don't know. I honestly waffled between a 4 and a 5 because I would say of all the historicals, I definitely like her the most. But I'm like, what if I give her a 5 and then there's someone else who's way better? But then I'm like, they could all just be great. I'm going to give her a 5 because we don't do half stars. And while she would have lost at least a half star for not leaning on her friends, I'll give her a 5. I liked her a lot. I enjoyed this book a lot. What did you give her,
All
Shawnee?
right. So for all the same reasons that you said, I was leaning in like the 4.5 range, and so I was like, well, I gotta round up to a 5. So I mean, she's a dope character. I've read a lot of characters. She's a dope character.
Yeah.
I like it, and I like that the book had like a type of wokeness, but also not. Like it was like kind of woke, but kind of like really true to historical. And I like that she didn't want to be a suffragette. I just like that fact about her. She was like, look, I know you guys have a lot planned, and I have to pretend to be a suffragette if I want these scholarships and to be able to do this work.
Yeah.
So I'll play the game, but really, I just want to be curled up with a book in my room.
Yeah.
And I just really like that about her. I like that she put her foot down. I liked it to the end that she was who she was to the end of the book. I don't think she had these weird character swings that were out of character for her. Okay, now, what did you think of the hero?
I would say he was between a 3 and a 4 for me because of a couple things. So, like, one, how many times do you have to tell a girl you don't like her against your better judgment? She gets it the first time. She got it before you even said it, but he says it so many times. I was like, this is hurting her feelings. You need to stop. Also, like, when he propositioned her on being the mistress after she said no, like, and ruined their sex mojo, I was like, I don't like you for that. You're wrong for that. And then my other thing was that, like, at the end, honestly, he just, like, gave up all his responsibilities. And I was like, who's running your dukedom, bro? She's, like, working hard and has all this correspondence and is like, oh, we have to get back for the semester. And he's just like, I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. Oh, my goodness. Which I thought was pretty funny. So, I don't know. I don't want to give him a 3 because even though 3 just means I liked him, because I didn't not like, it's not like I'm giving him a 2 or a 1, obviously. Like, I liked his character. I'm just not sure that I really liked him, and I definitely didn't love him. So I think I'm going to stick with a 3. What about you?
So I gave him a 4, and I called him McDreamy.
He was definitely McDreamy.
I did. Yeah, I did. There wasn't enough steamy to be a McSteamy, but I called him McDreamy. I agree with all the things that you said, except for the fact that I don't necessarily think that he wanted all that ducal responsibility. So it's like, I don't, like, when we were reading that Beverly Jenkins one and we were like, yo, what happened to both of them? What happened to their hopes and dreams? Like, what the hell happened? Like, her, I clearly see what her hopes and dreams are. Him, not so much. He is purely motivated by obligation and duty as a duke, but not by the hopes and dreams. Everything he talks about is all about duty. So by the time he blows up his seat in Parliament and everything else, I think at this point he's like, well, shit, let's just, if we gonna do this, let's just go all the way. You know what I mean? And so that's the only thing I would say. Like, I'm not convinced that he's giving up his hopes and dreams per se. But yes, I definitely was annoyed with how many times he told her he couldn't be with her. I was like, yo, bro, like, we get it. And it kind of annoyed me that he I don't know. But there was also something really endearing about him too. When she would waffle, like, he would listen to her waffle. Like, if she was like, I don't want to have sex now, he'd be like, okay. If I do, I don't. I do. He went on the ride with her, which I kind of really liked that about him.
I did too.
She was allowed to change her mind at any moment, and he respected that change in mind, which I've seen not go that way. And so, yeah, I don't know. I liked him. I like Sebastian. Plus, I love the name Sebastian. It's one of my favorite, like, old-timey names. So I'm going to give him McDreamy. I'm going to give him a 4. Right. I bang him.
All right. Did you have any favorite lines in the book?
Oh, yes. Well, one of my favorite lines was, this was actually not a actual quote, but it's something that she thought. So he asked her to come out to like the balcony or an alcove or something like that. And she looks around for a chaperone and she realizes like there's not one. And then he gives her this look and she says, it's a look like, do you think anyone here could stop me or hold me accountable? Said that expression. And I was like, that look had to be hot. that look had to be hot. You think anybody here could tell me what to do? Girl, if I want you, you mind. That's what's about to happen. I was like, yes, girl, yes, please.
Okay,
what about you?
This was another good one of his. This is when he's going out to, I believe, look for his brother. He says, I will come back to you. He said he kissed her hard on the mouth, then softly on the forehead, and all but bundled her out the door. And I was like, that gave me less the Mohicans vibe when he was like, stay alive, I'll come for you. I was like, ooh, I fucking love that movie. Stay alive. No matter what, I will come for you. And I was like, ooh, he gonna come back for her. Loved it.
Oh man, that's a good one. I have to say that's a really good one. Okay, so this is my second one and last one. There came a time in a duke's life when he rarely encountered an honest opinion, where he could be on his way to hell in a handcart and everyone would politely step aside and wish him Godspeed. And I love this line because I feel like I've been talking about this, for the last month or whatever. When Kanye came out and, decided to run for president and he was going on his rounds and he was talking shit about Harriet Tubman and stuff. And I know the facts that most people talk about with Harriet Tubman aren't exactly true, but they're not also exactly false. And what Kanye said was false. It wasn't accurate. And I did a lot of thinking about it. I don't know why I got stuck on it, but that was the premise of the music video that I've been shooting for the last couple weeks, was kind of like my commentary on it. But poor Kanye, like, he's at that point of like superstardom where nobody truly cares about him like they should, like his friends and the people around him who should be saying like, yo bro, like we gotta stop. We gotta get you some help.
Yeah, or like he says something crazy and no one's saying like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
that's just wrong. You know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Like when Kanye decided he wanted to run for president, I'm sure he said that idea to many, many people. And they were like, yeah, bro, go ahead, bro. This is a great idea, bro. It's going to be good. You know what I mean? And like, I just kind of like, you really have to, especially when the more famous you get, you have to keep the people around you who tell you no. Mm-hmm. Like if there's somebody who's willing to tell you no, you hold on to them with like every breath in your body, because that's the only person who will ever tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just really loved this line. I thought it was just a super relevant line, and yeah, it's got to be kind of lonely when everybody treats you this way. It doesn't matter you have all this money and stuff, but now you can't trust the opinions of the people around you.
And you got to be a little gaslighty. There's no like room for closeness if everyone is just yesing you all the time. Or like afraid of you and won't say anything. It's like he's not even close to his brother because his brother's afraid to tell him the truth and to talk to him.
Exactly.
Which obviously is gonna evolve because they have some good heart to hearts, and then Annabelle and Peregrine become friends, and I thought their side friendship was fun, and I would assume that he's gonna be with one of the. I'm assuming he's gonna be with how do you say her name?
Catriona?
Catriona. That's my assumption,
yeah.
Anyways. But so my third one, because you know that I love to just over choose quotes because I think book quotes are so great. I know you do, girl.
I know you do.
Mine was Sebastian is talking to Annabelle. He says, "Tell me," he said, "how frustrating it is to be surrounded by people considered your betters when they can't hold a candle to your abilities." And I think you said something about this earlier, but he really sees her and listens to her and respects her, even though he's a twat and keeps saying like, "Oh, we can't be together because I'm a duke." He does really like, and he challenges her intelligence, and he talks to her in a way like he doesn't talk down to her. He like fully expects that she will understand, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you have? I have a favorite review. I'm going to read you my review.
Read it to me.
Because I think you'll like it. Because it harkens back. This is a full circle moment, everyone, on the podcast. Full circle. Here we go. You ready? Jennifer Tar Heel Reader on Goodreads gave it 4 stars. Somehow this cover brought to mind a rom-com, but that is not what unfolds within these pages. Instead, it's a clever historical romance, one like nothing I've ever read before, though I admit I am not a frequent historical romance reader. And I was like, does that not sum up my exact sentiments perfectly about this book and bring us full circle to the cover does not match the story?
I saw that when I thought of you. Definitely. All right. So mine is I kind of paraphrase a little, but it might be a tad bit long.
Yeah, God bless everyone on Goodreads who's writing these like 4,000 word reviews and stuff. God bless you.
I know. Nobody's even paying you. I hope someone's paying you to write that much. But anyway, here we go. So this is from Hollis. And she said, and another debut author smashes it out of the park in 2019. These characters all but leap off the page. The attraction, the chemistry, the sizzle is damn. Their backstory has elements of drama, but are never overblown or overwrought and come out in the open naturally without being held onto until the last minute. Every up and down, back and forth, push and pull was so organic and also strangely refreshing. Additionally, the side characters, the blue stockings, suffragettes, were just fabulous, all of them. Hattie might have been my favorite. This debut is so strong and so clever. The cover might make it seem that this is all lighthearted joy and hijinks, but don't be fooled. This is a love story between people who have their eyes wide open, who are sensible and logical and intellectual, who know the implausibilities of a union between them and fight it because they know better, which makes the tension even more delicious. And yes, sure, there is still fun to be had.
It's a good review.
Oh, and then it says, and how sad is it that this book is set in 1879 and here we are still fighting.
At least, yeah.
And I was like, yep, that about sums up at least how I feel.
We are no longer fighting to not be property. At least we've moved on to other fights. But it is going to be exciting when there's no more things to fight. That will be fun.
Yes, which I just learned very recently because I watch too much TikTok. But TikTok is, I swear to God, it's the devil for people with ADHD. It's just
that F 2020 song that those TikTok girls made. That like I saw Will Smith posted it on his Instagram. Yeah. So catchy. Did you hear that song?
It's very catchy. Yeah, it is.
So catchy.
I actually don't care about that song whatsoever because I don't care about 2020 like that. Like 2020 hasn't been a bad year for me. Like
no, I don't disagree. I just think the song is. Yeah. I think it's just like a really, and they're TikTok famous.
Oh yeah, they're definitely TikTok famous. I actually saw that song when it came out when it had like 10 likes on it or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is gonna blow up for sure. You know. But anyway, I watch way too much TikTok, and so people go on there to talk about all their kind of social justice issues. And one of the ones I recently found out was there was a girl who had Down syndrome, and she was talking about like things that don't make sense that happen to people with Down syndrome. And she was talking about how, you know, one, that if you have Down syndrome, stores don't have to pay you minimum wage. There's like an even more minimum wage for people with disabilities.
What?
So they don't get paid a living wage. And then two, if they get married, they lose all benefits from the government, all their disability, all their everything that they have, they lose if they get married. And I was like, what the actual fuck?
Well, the married thing is interesting. So the minimum wage thing is wrong. Just like unequivocally wrong. The marriage thing actually makes sense because I would assume that the assumption is that if you are able to get married and have a relationship and sustain it and blah, 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 then you are also able to, find a job and not need to be on government assistance. So I can understand how that one got put into play because in a lot of other circumstances, marriages trigger for
something that cuts off
things,
benefits.
For a trigger for benefits increasing or decreasing. But I did not know about the minimum wage thing. That is crazy.
Yeah, but I'm kind of like, so we're not going to pay them a regular wage. And that's cool. That's legal. But if they get married, now you have two people who are married who can't make a living wage. Like, what the hell? Yeah. They don't just stop having Down syndrome because they've gotten married.
Right.
Like, why are they denied the ability to have like love and whatever they want to have? So that I learned on TikTok, and that was crazy to me. And just a lot of other random things I found out on TikTok. I'm just like, like I've been Googling. Every time somebody says something on TikTok, I Google it because I'm like, I don't know if this is true or not. I've been Googling a lot of things. And there's just a lot of still kind of human rights, relationship rights, things like that I think are just not, they're very outdated. And you know me, I want the throuple to be legal too. I want the poly people to be able to marry all 3, all 4, all 5, all 7, whatever.
That would be
whatever their heart desires.
Just like thinking about it from a law standpoint, that would be so complicated if like one part of it broke up, and then how to split the assets and like the kids and like that would be so complicated.
I honestly think that if you're going to have a marriage that has all of that, then you should just be legally required to have a certain types of contracts in place from the jump, like some sort of prenup, but like a poly prenup per se. Spelling out certain things before you could do it. Because yes, it will be complicated. I think no matter what, even if you had some sort of prenup, but to mitigate it the most you can, because there are going to be children involved, and that's going to be a very interesting dynamic. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And I think
it would be really hard to have a poly relationship if you had children, just because children take up so much emotional time and emotions in general, and literal time. And obviously if you're poly, you have more than one partner and you need to have time for yourself. But like, you raising these kids, you don't have a lot of time for yourself anyways, let alone your primary partner, let alone another partner. It's like, maybe if your kids were older, but like when they're babies, it's like, I think that would be hard too, because every time we're talking about this, you talk about how like communication is really important and stating your needs is really important, and how, you're also then a emotional support and communication partner with 2 different other people.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you add babies into that, it's like that's another layer of things that then you have to discuss with each partner. You know what I mean? So it's like, that would just be a lot. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of emotions. It's a lot of time that people want from you.
It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint of heart. But if you get people who are communicative, if your partners are, like, I definitely have a partner who's very communicative. He takes 20% of my energy. Right? To do anything, it takes 20%. Then I have a partner who's not very communicative, and he takes the other 80% of my energy. So, like, I think it's about finding the right poly partners in it. Just kind of the way I went about it probably initially. If I really knew where I'd be now, it would be slightly different, the choices I would have made. But life is life. This is where I'm at, so you have to make it.
But you
work.
just described 100% of your energy, but then the babies would have taken 80.
None of it.
So you wouldn't have had no more energy for those other people. Is my point.
But that's what I'm saying. If I had two partners who both took 20% of my energy,
Right.
then I would be left with 60 left. I could give myself some in the process too.
Yeah, totally.
But,
and they would also take
I would
on the burden of kids and whatnot, for sure.
Exactly. But that's also the thing. If you have more hands, I mean, that's more hands to handle children.
That's true.
That's more hands to watch your kids when you go to the store and stuff. But I also think it's kind of fucked up because say I have two partners and I have a kid. And so now that kid is raised with two fathers, but then I leave one of the fathers. Maybe that person's not the biological father. And so now they don't get the right to see that baby that they've been raising for years. And so I think that's where prenups and things like that might come into play to give parents rights to kids that they're actually raising, but might not be biologically theirs. Yeah. So
unfortunately, I think even in non-poly situations that happens a lot. Where like an aunt or grandma's raising someone or whomever,
or step parent,
a friend, and those for whatever reason the kid then doesn't get to see them.
I saw a girl on TikTok who had a stepdad. And he raised her from the time she was 2 years old to the time she was 15. And the mom died. And then the biological dad, who had not raised her at all, got custody of her. So,
like, and he wanted custody?
She had to go...
Or she had to go get emancipation or something. And then
she had to go live with him. And she's miserable. And he has she has a stepmom who they fight constantly and whatever. And the stepdad wanted her back, but, like... couldn't get her back, and then like 3 years in, the stepfather died of like cancer, and so now she only has that guy. And I was just like, but she don't know that man.
She doesn't know.
You send her to
live.
That's
super weird.
She don't know him at all.
Super weird.
That's so weird. Yeah. So I feel like there should be more considerations.
Although in that situation, the mom should have had him adopt her so that he would have rights. But obviously, she didn't think she was going to die early. But people need to. Yeah. People need to
put their affairs
shit in order.
Get your shit in order. If you have kids, get your shit in order. Yeah,
me and Leo are making our will for laying out, all the trusts and all that other stuff so that our kids go to my sister, hey Anne, and all of our money and stuff goes so that she can raise them if God forbid something happened to both of us.
Yeah, I don't want that shit up in the air. There's some people I don't want with my kids, man. Like,
well, no, but also it's also just like again back to that time and energy thing. It's like it's not even. I mean, there's obviously people I just like don't want to have my children, but it's also like who do I think is going to have the energy to and the emotional capacity to care for two kids who just lost both their parents? Because in this scenario, there are no more parents. Yeah, and going to be able to like raise them in a way that or at least similar to the way that I would want to, and keep them safe and stuff. But I think it's also like you don't want them to go to, someone who already has kids, because two kids who just lost both their parents are going to need, or you want them to go to someone who has kids, but who has like the capacity to take care of a lot of kids, because do I have the capacity to take care of 8 kids? If I have to. I don't want to, but if I have to, I could. But I don't want to.
I don't want to do that shit.
Anyhow.
Anyway. All right, let's wrap this up, Bridge.
What did you rate it overall?
Okay, so I was on the fence between a 4 and a 5. But I have to round up to, because that's my rule. So I am going to give this book 5 stars. This book is getting 5 stars from me.
5 stars from Shani. Hard to do, folks. Hard to do. I am giving it a 4. 100% would recommend. As I told you earlier, I read the ARC for book number 2, which is out on September 1st. You guys should head to our website, romanceataglance.com. Get your copy. It's a goddamn delight as well. I loved that it was feminism, but the feminism did not ruin the romance. It enhanced the romance, because sometimes the feminism can be too much feminism, and then where's the romance? So I really liked this book. I really liked it.
I feel like, I think what it is, I think it's like the overall wokeness, of stories, especially when you're a woman author from today writing about yesteryear. You're trying to put in the things that we're fighting for and the new things that we have accepted are unacceptable or whatever from now, but you're trying to put it into, the world back then. And sometimes I don't think it works. And also, like, when I read a historical book, I know what I'm in for. Like, I'm reading it because it has those dynamics.
Yeah.
So, for me, this book wasn't pushy. It wasn't over the top. It was just kind of it was set in the times, and that's just what it was. But it wasn't like, I don't know. It didn't feel preachy to me or whatever. And so, yeah, it was good. This book.
It kind of reminds me, you guys, we are thinking about doing a dark romance season. We have been getting a lot of recommendations and talks from our fair friends on the old Insta and Twitter. And we're thinking about doing a dark romance. And like Shawnee said, we would have to basically like accept the fact it's dark romance. The consent is going to be blurry, if not there. And
super murky.
Very murky. And we're wondering what you guys think. So hit us up. Romance at Glance on Twitter, because apparently Romance at a Glance was one character too many. And Romance at a Glance on Instagram. Feel free to also talk to us on Facebook if Facebook makes you feel warm and fuzzy. You can talk to us on Patreon and become a patron and get into our secret chat. You can, send a carrier pigeon out. Ooh, if you have dark romances that you want to have us read, go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, put the book in there, and we will send you some stickers. If you send, obviously, you have to send it to us on Instagram so that we know it happened. But yeah, share that review. We'll give you some stickers and tell us what dark romances you might want to listen to.
I would really I love when people give us recommendations because there's no way I would find
No, there's too many books. Too many books, too many authors.
Yeah, there's just too many. And it feels like a sea of, especially when it's not your genre. Like historicals, I was like, okay, I already have an idea of the authors that I want to read. But contemporary, I'm like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Who's black? So it's like, it's definitely really cool, I think, when people give us recommendations. So
yeah,
yes, hit us up, please.
Yeah. All right. Well, until then.
All right.
May your books be your lover.
And your hand your best friend. I miss you, Bridge.
Thanks for listening.
Subscribe to our channel to get new episodes, clips, and more.
And click here to watch our previous reviews and author interviews.